I think we can all feel like this at times. I think we can all feel unfulfilled, with life and where we are in life. I think we can feel like we want to progress and move on and do a bit more. I think to level up, to truly kind of give ourselves a raise, be that a raise in health, a raise in wealth, or a raise in relationships, I think we need three key ingredients. And so in this video, I'm just going to talk about kind of the three ingredients that I talk about with my coaching clients and what I believe creates the recipe for leveling up and giving yourself a raise. I think number one is to learn something new. Number two is to take yourself out of your comfort zone. And number three is to take a risk. And so if you visualize this, if you can think of yourself as not doing these things, I think that's quite easy. Comes quite natural because we're all humans and we all like our comfort. And so I think it's quite easy just to imagine, isn't it? Not learning anything new. I think, when many of us get to being a grown up, we kind of feel like we're done, in that respect. And um, yeah, we can kind of rest on our laurels a little bit and just not bother to learn anything new. We can also easily imagine what it's like to stay in our comfort zone because I think that's very often where many of us kind of lean towards naturally. And we're humans, so I think that's just the way that we're wired. Like we're happy with comfort, and at times it's easy to imagine us not pursuing opportunities or not pursuing something that's hard, um, and just let it pass by. And it's also very easy to visualize kind of what it looks like to not take any risks in life, to kind of stay on the straight and narrow, stick to the status quo, do what society tells us we should do, and essentially keep our head down and hope for the best. So, yeah, I think visualizing not doing these things is quite easy. But as is the definition of insanity, like we can't expect any change. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. So, how are our lives any different? They're really not, are they? We can't just keep doing the same thing and just hope for some, magic to drop out of the sky and suddenly make us feel different or improve our health or increase our wealth or improve our relationships. It's not going to happen. No one's coming to save you and nobody else can do it for you. But I think if we visualize what it's like to actually level up, what it actually looks like to get these ingredients together, and what it looks to be at the epicenter of those three. Now that's exciting. Let's visualize what it would look like. So let's say, for example, that we were going to learn a new language. Let's say you didn't know how to speak Spanish, and so you wanted to learn how to speak Spanish. And so you create a new habit, 1 hour a week. You're gonna, log into Duolingo, whatever it may be, and you're gonna work through some modules and learn Spanish. Great. But that on its own isn't really going to move the needle. It might be good for our mental health. This idea of trying something new or having to concentrate on something different than the day to day. And it might be quite satisfying, when we kind of answer a question correctly. We might get some really good kind of dopamine and kind of feedback from that. But beyond that, it's not really going to level up our life. It's not really going to raise our game. If now we add into this discomfort. So let's say, for example, we're learning a new language and now we want to try and get out of our comfort zone. So let's say, for example, we book ourselves a little holiday. We go to Spain, and in Spain, we are going to try and speak to the locals. We're going to walk into a shop and we're going to tell ourselves, you know what, I'm going to try my best to, to have a conversation, or at least to use enough Spanish, do you know what I mean, to kind of interact with people there. Great, brilliant. It's a pretty scary thing to do. You're walking into, a Spanish shop in Spain, and you're going to try and talk, speak Spanish to a native Spanish speaker. So yeah, absolutely. I think for most people, if that was a new skill, that would definitely bring them outside of their comfort zone. Especially if all you've ever known is your own native language. So we're getting there now. We're getting there. Like now you've got like the learning something new, and you've got like getting out of your comfort zone. This is great. Okay. So we're kind of getting there, but there's still a big safety net, isn't there, with this? Because let's be honest, like we're probably going to go on holiday to Spain, to a tourist area. There's probably going to be people who run shops who can speak English probably far better than our newly learned Spanish. And if it all goes wrong, if we don't actually manage to kind of get the words right or be understood correctly, we can just revert back, can't we? It's not the end of the world. Like we can always just revert back to English, make ourselves understood, through gestures or body language or whatever that may be. There's no risk. There's no risk. And so when we do come back from that holiday, we might have had a good experience. We might have a funny little anecdote and story to tell. But in terms of our actual life, we haven't leveled up. We haven't really nailed on something new, that is going to fundamentally change the trajectory of our life. But if we now throw in risk, if we now look at the trifecta, what happens when all three of them come together? Now we can start to get somewhere. So let's take, for example, and say, okay, we've learned Spanish online. We're going to get out of our comfort zone by speaking Spanish, but let's say that we're now going to take a big risk. Let's say we're going to go traveling. Okay, we're going to go backpacking off the beaten track to Spanish-speaking countries. Let's say Central and South America. So let's say, for example, we're going to do it for 3 months. Okay, great. Now we're throwing in there a little bit of risk, because we're going to purposely put ourselves well out of our comfort zone, probably in a rural area of Central and South America in Spanish-speaking countries, whereby the locals will not know a word of English. The signage, the menus, everything will be in Spanish and only in Spanish. And also, of course, we're going to have to interact to be able to get ourselves around, to be able to find places to stay, to be able to eat what we want to eat. And suddenly now you've thrown in risk. And with this trifecta now, what you have created is something that is going to level up your life. No matter what happens from here on out, okay, from that trip, from that experience onwards, you will have fundamentally changed, the fibers of your being, and you will forever take that with you. Because the plethora of experience and growth that will hang off all of that will be huge. Who's to say, for example, that actually you don't find a place that you want to spend the rest of your life? Who's to say that actually you find the person that you want to be with for the rest of your life? And maybe they are Spanish speaking, and without any of this, you would never have met them. These are the things, these are the ways in which we can fundamentally level up and raise our life and change it for the better, and get out of that place whereby we feel unfulfilled, whereby we feel like we're treading water, we feel like we're stuck in a rut. Without these three things, without learning, we're just dying. If you meet anybody who's not learning anything new, all they're doing is just slowly dying. If you don't get out of our comfort zone, we're shrinking. We just become comfortable. We just become cocooned in our own little comfort zone, our own little bubble. And if we don't take a risk, we have no story. And our life is boring. But with these three, with the trifecta, bring them all together. When we're learning, we're living. When we're out of our comfort zone, we are growing. And when we take a risk, we are guaranteed to have a story. If this resonates with you, and if leveling up and giving your life a raise is something that matters to you, something that you want to invest in, and something that you're serious about, then please book in a call with me. There's a link in the description below, and I would love to work with people who are really invested in making a change in their lives for the better, to raise up, to level up their life. And many of the people who I coach at the moment use proven, tried and tested techniques that we work through together, one step at a time, to design a life that matters to them. And then we ultimately create a path to get there. And so if that sounds like something that you want to invest in, then please book in a consultation with me. The first consultation is absolutely free, just to see whether or not it's a good fit and we can work together. And after that, we can begin coaching sessions and coaching calls weekly, so that we can get you from where you are now to where you want to be.